All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another edition of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you are consuming this podcast. I appreciate you guys very, very much. As always, today's show is presented by the law office of William Mattar. Heard in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. This is our Monday podcast. Audio, you'll be listening to this hopefully sometime on Monday. Video side, we are actually live. It is relatively late on a Sunday night, around 9:30 or so. Of course, the big story, the Buffalo Bills, 23-20. They survive in Cleveland. Also of note here, and we're going to talk about this as well on today's show, the Buffalo Sabres, 3-1 victory over the New Jersey Devils. The Sabres have now won 6 in a row. They actually have the longest winning streak going in the NHL after this victory. So a victory sports Monday, a true victory sports Monday for Buffalo sports fans. Joe from Queens is on a family kind of Christmas vacation, so we couldn't connect for the show today. Plus, I wanted to make sure we got some Sabre stuff in later, and to do that, I got my man, Buffalo Bandits commentator, sports media guy, my friend, Steve Bermel. What's going on? Before we even get into anything else, show the world who's watching this on YouTube what you got there from the Buffalo Bandits. What's up, dude?
Yeah, for those that might not know, we had our celebration from the championship last year. So got the ring from the team. The face slides off and turns into a necklace. Like they gave us a chain that goes with it, so you could wear this as like a pendant. But just incredible. So yeah, that'll go with the other two. So now we got the
You got the three-peat there, man.
we got the trifecta of championship rings. So pretty cool. It was an awesome. We had dinner. One of the players' families owns a winery in St. Catharines, so we went up to dinner Friday, and everybody got the rings. So
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. Thank you everybody on the video side in the live chat. I'll try to get to at least some of these. Like I said, Steve's subbing in tonight for Joe from Queens, who predictably is pissed at me. You know, it's funny because Steve originally I told Joe. So again, he's at his in-laws, and it was going to be hectic and chaotic there. A family dinner, you know, he's got his toddler son and all that stuff. I said we're going to do the show right after the game. It's just so I said, well, it's just too tough. I'm going to call my guy Steve. It's been a hot minute since I've had Steve on. Plus, I wanted to talk some Sabres. What I forgot about was that the Sabres are playing on Sunday night as well. So then he's really pissing me because, well, I could have done the show. But anyway, I'm glad to have you on, not just for Bills talk, but like I said, for Sabres talk as well. This is it's a good Sunday. It's a good Monday to be a Buffalo sports fan. Let's start with the Bills, and we will get to the Sabres a little bit later in the show. Actually, before that, real quick, happy birthday. I got to wish my son, 23 years old today, celebrated his birthday. That's always a good thing, of course. So big happy birthday shout out to my guy Shane. Anyway, all right, so the Buffalo Bills defeat the Cleveland Browns a lot closer than any of us wanted. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. They win 23-20. They've reached 11 wins now for the 6th straight year, which is the longest streak in the NFL. We're going to talk about some players, parts of this game. Let me start, Steven. Let me know if you agree with this. I'm going to do something rare here. Instead of overreacting, be pissed, which I am, and we'll get to some of it. But I'm going to offer up a little bit of I think what's a fair excuse for what we saw on the football field today. Let me know if you agree with this. And everybody out there, I'd like to hear from you as well. This was their 4th road game in the last 5 weeks. And they were coming off what was a tough, emotional, draining type of victory last week against, a New England Patriots team that they battled back from being down 3 touchdowns. So you had to get up. It's a big game. Division title ramifications, are on the line. The Bills win that. Again, 4 games out of their last 5 on the road, and it just felt flat today a little bit, playing a team that stinks, but also a team that really had nothing to lose. I guess where I'm starting with this is I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass because I just think you're due to have this type of game. Like I said, being on the road as much as they have and coming off such a high of last week, playing against a team that you're favored by 10.5 on the road. I almost feel like we should have saw this coming where, maybe it wouldn't be quite this close, but it was going to be closer than we wanted. They were just flat, I guess is what I'm telling you. Steve, what do you think?
I mean, I texted you before the game and said, hopefully we're talking about a 3-score win, kind of a boring game. And we got the opposite. And I don't know how to feel. It feels like we're in purgatory. Like after every game, people say, oh, well, a win is a win. They found a way, they got it figured out. And it sucks because you just wanted them to go into Cleveland and run them over. And they don't do that. And you're kind of left with this being stuck between, man, they couldn't just beat this team by 2 scores and at least they won, and they keep doing it. And the thing that keeps coming to my mind is it's not sustainable. You can't just keep eking by every week. You can't win every week by just having a good second half, except somehow they're doing it. It's just like the recipe last year. It's like, oh, they get these lucky turnovers, and that's the only reason that they're winning games. The defense gives up a ton of yards, a ton of plays, but they find the timely turnover, and that's the recipe to win. And it feels like the way they're doing it now, it's like they're doing just enough to win, and it's working out. You're mentioning this win streak that they're on, but they tried so hard to give this game to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns were just too bad of a team to take it from them. Like that last attempt at a drive when they end up on their own 1 yard line on 4th and 32 or whatever, and they don't go for it. They gave up at that point, but a defensive penalty there or anything there would have felt like a chance to kind of stay alive for the Browns. I'm just kind of feel like we're in purgatory. Like, I'm so glad they're winning, don't get me wrong, but fuck, we say all the time, oh, they found a way or they dug it out or they figured out a way. Just beat a team. And they just didn't do it today. And I'm on the other side, Pat. I'm nervous people are going to be mad at me for like not being excited that they won. It's frustrating. Like, you watch this game, they should have wrapped it up in the first half, it feels like. And instead, they're trying to keep Cleveland from scoring to tie the game late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm very frustrating, and when it was 20, it got to be 20-10. I'm like, all right, well, this is over. They're going to eventually run away with this game. Once Sanders has to throw the ball, and you can kind of pin your ears back, it's going to be, it's going to get ugly. But then the offense took a little bit of a nosedive after their first 3 possessions, and the defense started to at least make some plays and play better. One guy specifically, which of course we're going to talk about here. But yeah, this is an old, tired formula. Now, in fairness, it's working so far. The Bills' defense just gets off the bus, comes on the field, and sleepwalks early in the game. And then at some point, they wake up and they make their adjustments and they play better. But I'm like, yo, you're going to get to January and you're going to build yourself, get yourself in a hole that you're not going to be able to climb out in. If it's just one game where you do that, that's a wrap on the season. I feel like this right now. Here's how I feel about this team. The Bills offense better, and I mean better, be firing on all cylinders come the playoffs. And we'll talk about the wide receivers. I really don't have much expectation or hope for them. That said, this could still be a great offense because they could run the shit out of the football. They're the best in the NFL at running the ball. The tight ends are really good weapons, and the running backs have become bigger weapons in the passing game. So they could get to 30, 35 points even without receivers having big days. I'm confident that they could do that. And they better, because this defense, especially this run defense specifically, man, they just ain't stopping nobody. And they're especially not stopping anybody on the road and against a good team, which they will play in January. We keep saying, well, it's going to be Baltimore or Houston or Jacksonville, whoever it's going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be a better team than what we saw today and what we've seen, some of these other weeks as well. I thought that for the most part, with the exception of Greg Rousseau and Jordan Poyer, who, again, we're going to talk about in a minute, but I thought this was a pretty pathetic defensive effort that was aided by 2 fluky interceptions in this game. That first one was a bad throw by Shador that went off the Browns receiver and went right into Jordan Poyer's hands. And then the other one was a deflection that DaQuan Jones, right place, right time, and he comes down with the interception. So they did get their 2 takeaways, which obviously matters, but this was not a good defensive game. It was a good defensive performance by one or two guys, but all in all things considered, that Browns offense is borderline historically bad coming into this game. I was not impressed with the Bills defense at all. I thought this was going to be a get-right game for them, and it definitely wasn't.
They continue to do the dumbest shit on third down. Like you finally have a negative play on first down and an incomplete pass on second down, and it's 3rd and 14, and you get to Shedeur in the backfield and let him fucking scramble for 20 yards.
Yeah,
and it's like, this can't happen. The other time they finally get a stop, it feels like the Browns are going to punt. Oh wait, tripping on the defense, 15 and a first. Like, not only do they find ways to give up first downs on 3rd and a mile, on 4th and a mile, it's dumb shit. It's not even like, not that it's not always dumb to give up a first down on 3rd and 18. Do you remember it was years ago when Ray Rice had that run on like 4th and 27, and it was one of the craziest plays ever, and it led to the Bills give up one of those a week. I don't mean like once a season. They're giving up a play like that every single week. One of the things I'm listening to pregame about Shedeur is like, yeah, he's still young. He's not the most athletic guy. He's really not going to beat you with his legs. And on that 3rd and 12 or whatever it was, when he takes off up the middle and scrambles for a first down, I'm like, you could have fooled me, because he just made everybody look silly. The Bills, their adjustments seemed to be cover zero, bring the blitz. It looked like every time they brought the house, they'd never defended a screen pass against that before, or they didn't get a hand up to try to take that screen pass away. They're two best looks at getting to Shedeur, their first two good looks, I know they ended up getting to him late in the game, turned into huge gains for the Browns because they just threw it behind the blitz to a running back who leaked out and picked up 20 or 25 yards. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, Pat, but the number of plays that they give up that are big plays, it's amazing they only gave up 20 points today. It probably has to do with those 2 interceptions, but they had so many plays that just leave you scratching their head like, how does this happen? And it's not once a game. It's 5 times a game. How does this happen?
Yeah. By the way, live chat going on here on the video side, live chat. People conversing with each other. I love this, so keep going. I'll try to get to a couple comments on the air throughout the show as well. Look, there's a lot to not be happy about for sure. But before we go back like down that dark alley, I do want to talk about Greg Rousseau at this point, because I got to tell you, there's probably not a guy on this football team right now that I think has been more polarizing, even though he's a quiet guy and he's not a flashy guy, but Greg Rousseau has been a polarizing player to talk about this season, because on one hand, he has been consistently good to great against the run all season long. He came into this game number one. I know people got their opinions on PFF, and so do I. So generally, you take it with a grain of salt. But he was a number 1 graded defensive edge in the entire NFL against the run per PFF coming into this football game. So you have that. He sets the edge well. He's a good, solid, steady player. On the other hand, this guy got a 4-year, $80 million contract, and it's not, ridiculous money, but it is. You need to be an impactful type of player. You need to go out and you need to win us a game, or you need to at least make plays that help shape the game type of contract. I think we could all agree that that's what he's getting paid to do. And up until this point, he really hasn't done that. Now, I think his play has improved over the last couple of weeks. Still nothing crazy, though. And on a day where I thought the defensive tackles were pretty brutal, just, again, a lot of mistakes. On the offense, started great and got into a rut. They needed a star on this team to play like a star. And on this day, Greg Rousseau is the biggest reason why the Buffalo Bills won their 11th game. You can make an argument. In fact, I would argue that if it were not for Greg Rousseau, the Bills might have lost this football game. He had 2.5 sacks. He had a pressure that was a near safety, turned out to be an intentional grounding at the 1-yard line, which led to a punt late in the game. That matters. The Bills got a chance. They ran the ball out after that. He had 2 tackles for a loss. He had 9 pressures in this game. He had a 32.1 pressure rate, which is far and away his best of the season. The big knock against him has been he doesn't get the quarterback down. He's not getting sacks. Well, he got 2.5 in this game, and the Bills desperately needed it. So I want to make sure, and I'm sure you do too, to give Greg Rousseau his flowers, because this is a guy that we argue about all the time. You see it on Twitter, you see it on Facebook, all the social medias, what value and impact he has. This was an incredible game for a guy that they needed it from.
Well, his first sack with that arm shuck, where he kind of chopped the arm up to get in on the quarterback and get to Shedor's backside, was that his best play of the year?
I think so.
So it took until week 16 against the Cleveland Browns. Like, yes, he's a huge factor as to why they won the game this year. I just hope that it continues going forward. If this is the start of him getting hot down the stretch, sign me up. If this is the flash in the pan against the 2-14 Cleveland Browns in week 15, like, I might be wrong on the week and on the record for the Browns, but point notwithstanding, if this is the flash in the pan of Rousseau's year, that can't happen. I certainly hope that it's the former, that this is him heating up. This is him finding his game, whatever words you want to use, that this is going to spring him into the postseason. Up to this point, I feel like every play made by an edge rusher wasn't named Greg Rousseau. Like, even the pick for Daquan Jones, that was a great play by Joey Bosa to spin off the tackle and read the play and get a hand up and understand that the ball might go that way and tip it up in the air for Daquan Jones to get. I go back to when Rousseau tipped the Mahomes pass to himself. Like, he was playing at an elite level. He was seeing things. He was making impact plays. And yeah, he made a ton of impact plays today. And that's awesome. But that's what he's getting paid to do. And setting the edge against the run is not enough of an impact player for someone of his caliber and the expectations that the Bills have for him, he should have for himself, and fans should have for him. I don't care if he's the number one PFF graded defensive end at the, setting the edge against the run. His arms are 12 feet long. He's a freak athlete. Go get the quarterback. And listen, if the rest of the year and in the playoffs he continues to play the way that he did today, I'll eat the crow. I'm not even here to say that he won't do that. I'm not even trying to be a hater. I'm just not forgetting 15 weeks where he didn't play like this, because for 15 minutes he did today.
I love it, man. Steve's got the spicy takes going on today. Listen, you're absolutely right, man. Again, it's been debatable, how good he has been. And I think we all could agree that he needed to do more. And he did in this game. The Bills don't win without him. And here's the other thing. So I wanted to talk about him first, because he's still a young enough and in his prime and being paid to be in his prime type of player. But there's a throwback trio, we'll call it, with this defense going on right now that I'm really, really getting into. Guys that we at various points have written off as, dead and done as good football players. I don't know, maybe just in the NFL period. But I got to start. I'm talking about Jordan Poyer. I'm talking about Matt Milano. I'm talking about Tre White. And I want to go to Jordan Poyer first. I'm going to tell you this right now. I have greatly, greatly underestimated the impact that Jordan Poyer would have. I laughed. I didn't laugh, but I kind of chuckled or, smirked when they signed Jordan Poyer to the practice squad. I'm like, I knew it was going to be like Micah Hyde, because he signed before the season, whereas Micah Hyde came in really late. He was just insurance. I thought Jordan Poyer would be a guy who would help, on the practice field. And if push came to shove, maybe late in the season, he could get involved a little bit. I'll tell you what, man, we're through, week 15 here. Jordan Poyer has been an integral, incredibly important part of this defense. He had that interception today, which, again, that was a gift. That might have been one of the least impressive things he did this game. I don't care about the interception. He came in, he laid some licks. He was good in coverage. He absolutely saved 4 points on that one where he had a tackle at the 4-yard line. Ultimately, Cleveland settled for a field goal. If that was almost anybody else, he's getting run over, and that was going to be a touchdown. So he for sure saved at least 4 points right there. He probably saved points on another separate drive with a great tackle. There was one that was a screen pass. He shot the gap. He beat the blocker and got the guy right at the line of scrimmage. I am blown away right now. I'm stunned on what I'm seeing from Jordan Poyer, because look, 2 years ago in Buffalo, he wasn't that good anymore. I mean, he looked like a guy who was washed up, quite frankly. Then he goes to Miami last year, and just an absolute colossal disaster with Miami, which turns out it was the system, it was the players. Maybe his heart just wasn't there. He's back where he wants to be, and boy, oh boy, man, does it show because Jordan Poyer kind of took this defense and put it on his back a little bit today, man. He's been sensational, dude, ain't it?
Yeah, he definitely benefits from being here. I was texting one of my friends during the game and said the system that Buffalo plays has to fit him perfectly. And it's crazy because he doesn't just make an impact in the passing game or the running game. He makes significant impact in both. The broadcast was talking about how the Browns had an attack or had a defender at the point of attack on both James Cook and Ty Johnson's touchdown runs, and the running backs made a miss. How often is Poyer getting into the gap
Yeah.
at the point of the attack and sticking somebody? And that was what was missing, from this defense, or that is what's missing oftentimes when they're getting gashed against the run, is that the running back's able to get to the third level untouched and nobody's clogging the gap or getting off a block to make the play. And when 21 comes in there like a missile, I feel like most, if not every time, he makes the stop. It holds it to a 0, 1, or 2 yard gain instead of missing the tackle or missing the runner completely and then letting him rip off a big run. And then in addition to that, he flies all over the field in the secondary. He lays some big hits that other guys won't lay. In Miami, that was kind of maybe what he was most known for when he was hitting people, and he broke didn't he break Keon's arm or something last year when he hit him along the sideline?
Yeah.
And with the Bills, he's flying all over the place, even though speed isn't his forte. He plays the game, or he fits the system in such a way that I think he's so comfortable, he's able to play fast. I don't mean that he's the fastest guy out there. I don't mean he's got the athleticism and the speed. He is so comfortable in the system, trusted so much by the defense and McDermott, that he plays faster than maybe any of the other 10 guys out there. He's just seeing the game and playing at a million miles an hour, and it's all to Buffalo's benefit. And man, he has been a shot in the arm to this defense. They still have their struggles, sure, but yeah, when you talk about him kind of being the MVP or the leader, he's certainly on the rope, pulling that rope with the other 10 guys, and certainly, kind of setting the bar or setting the pace for the rest of the defense, which is incredible at his age and like at this point of his career, kind of coming back as a practice squad guy. He not only has rejuvenated his career, he's rejuvenated the Bills defense.
No matter how this season ends up playing out for this team, I'm very happy for Jordan Poyer because, listen, man, he was an important part of this regime. And if he would have, left 2 years ago playing bad, not on the greatest, he got cut, by the way. He didn't leave the Bills. So maybe I shouldn't say that. The Bills cut him before last season. Then he went to Miami and he was bad. If that would have been the end for him, it would have felt like a little bit kind of was still left, out there for him, maybe a little bit of a bad taste. But for him to come back and play the way he has and be without question, an asset to Cole Bishop as well. And Cole Bishop, by no accident, started playing better the second Jordan Poyer got on the field with him. It's just great to see. It really is. And now the other two guys, I can lump them in together, Matt Milano and Tre White. It's starting to become an every week thing. Like, Matt Milano did not play well earlier this season, but Matt Milano is balling right now. He had another good game. Not really so much statistically, but he was out there. He was making his presence felt, very physical, making good plays. And Tre White, week after week, I feel like I'm saying this. He just doesn't get beat. He saved the touchdown, too. And it might have been actually that same drive, back-to-back plays. It was Poyer with a hit, and it was Tre White knocking a ball out that if that guy catches the ball, he's probably scoring a touchdown. Tre White look, Max Harrison is without question the future, and he's somebody you should be excited about. This guy could go on and become a perennial Pro Bowler. But right now, today, in 2025, as the Buffalo Bills are trying to win a Super Bowl, I feel much more comfortable and confident with Tre White out there than I do with Max Harrison at this point in time. Tre has proven a lot of haters and a lot of doubters wrong, and so's Matt Milano, aren't they?
Tre, what's crazy is when we talked about him coming back, it was like, well, he can just kind of be a nice subsidiary role, kind of a role play. That dude is being tapped to play big downs against big players in big moments and is rising to the occasion, which is incredible to see. He's not just kind of playing 10% of the snaps and he's making a play here or there. He's kind of being called upon, which is allowing Harrison to get eased in. And I do think Harrison's a very talented player, but I'm excited for Tre because he's so beloved here in Buffalo. Like, he kind of, you talk about being part of the regime, like he was so beloved from his first stint here, and another guy that left and just couldn't find a groove and comes back to Buffalo and the scheme fits and he's comfortable and he plays in a groove. And I think once again, playing comfortable plays a role. With Milano, I think we have to give a little bit of a hat tip to Bean. And you and I talked about this as soon as the decision happened. A rare thing happened with Milano's contract. Both sides agreed to chop the last year off. I don't know that that's happened in recent Bills history or in NFL history, but what that does and what I was immediately excited for is it puts him in a contract year. So if he's healthy and he's playing, how old is Milano? 30, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
So now he's playing for what could be his next or last payday. Like he might get a 2 or 3 year deal, making a decent amount of money, whether that's Buffalo or otherwise. And then he becomes kind of a journeyman veteran after that. Maybe he comes back to Buffalo. Who knows? But putting him in a contract year, I think now is paying dividends because not that he wasn't a good player before, but he's playing for a contract, whether that's in Buffalo or somewhere else. So 2 sacks last week, flying all over the field this week. That hit on Judkins, as much as it stinks that he got hurt, that was a great play. He comes in like a heat-seeking missile as soon as the ball got there. And let's not forget the time before Cleveland ran that play, they gashed Buffalo. And the second time, Milano sniffs it out, reads it, puts his head down, gets a beat on it, and wraps up Judkins as soon as the ball gets there. And, hopefully Judkins recovers quickly and, is back for next season healthy and ready to go. You hate to see someone go down, but what a play by Milano. And, I'm not rooting for Judkins to be hurt, but that ends up being significant too, that Cleveland loses the guy that was moving the ball.
Yeah, 100%. Real quick, before we get to a quick break here, Diamond Pickle in the live chat, I appreciate all the comments, whether I agree or not. He says, what big-time players has White done well against? What player period has really dominated Tre White this season, and especially in recent months? I really don't know how to answer that, and we're live right now because if we weren't, I promise you I would go stat digging right now and show you numbers that Tre White's metrics have been outstanding. Do you not remember last week when Christian Benford did not play against New England?
Yeah, and the Cincinnati game. Higgins made some plays, but those weren't over Tre White's head.
Yeah,
right?
So
his hair stand on the touchdown.
Agreed, man. So listen, has he been perfect? No, but my point is, Tre White with Baltimore, especially with the Rams and Baltimore a little bit last year, was a disaster. And it was not looking good during the preseason and maybe early in the season where it looked like Tre White was going to be a big problem. He was going to get picked on a lot. And every week I used to say early in the season, I can't believe teams aren't going after Tre White every down. I'd be going after him every single down. Well, we're 14 games in now, 15 games in, and he's still not giving up big plays, and teams aren't having a lot of success. So maybe there's just time to say, you know what, he might be old, he might not be athletic. Yeah, Max Harrison's the future. But guess what? It's okay to say Tre White is far exceeding expectations because that's a gazillion % what's going on right now with him this season.
Is the last touchdown he gave up the slant to Waddle?
Could be.
Yeah,
that's
where my brain is. I don't have stats. Sorry, Pickle. I don't have the stats, but that feels right.
Higgins definitely got at least one touchdown over him. But again, tough plays and T. Higgins. Look, there's a lot of great corners in the league that are going to get beat by T. Higgins. I'm not going to judge a player and whether they can shut down a player like T. Higgins or not. I'm more concerned if, is a guy like Booty from New England or Jerry Jeudy from Cleveland, guys that are okay players, are they going to have their way with Tre White? You got Christian Benford, and when Benford's out there, he's shadowing, like he shadowed Jamar Chase in that Cincy game. So it's like, if you got a competent CB2, your defense, pass defense is going to be a lot better. So I'm not with the Tre White haters. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back on the other side. So that was the good of the defense. We're going to talk about some things that are big issues and continue to be big issues with this defense. Of course, we'll talk about the offense. We're going to get into the Sabres, the red-hot Sabres as well, right after this. All right, back here with Steve Bermel. And again, the show is presented by the law office of William Mattar. Her in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Depth on this defensive line stinks. All right, it's not good. Greg Rousseau and Joe Bosa do the job out there at edge. When they're not out there, bad things just continue to happen. A.J. Ebenesa will make a splash play now and then, but he's not played well. They had Andre Jones out there here on Sunday trying to make plays. That don't work. I don't know what in God's name happened to Javon Sullivan. This was a guy I really thought going into year 2 was going to become a really good, consistent pass rusher, and maybe he could be a well-rounded defensive edge. He ain't even playing. I mean, they got TJ Sanders over the last month or so playing edge because Javon Sullivan is not capable of doing it. So the depth is terrible there. At defensive tackle, Daquan Jones is adequate. Deion Walker is good for a rookie, but not quite consistent yet. And then you look today, Fedarian Mathis, TJ Sanders, he's just not there, man. I mean, the defensive line depth, they're not good. They're getting moved off the line. Teams are running all over them week after week after week. Cleveland had 160 rushing yards in this game. And again, it's the depth on the defensive line. And then the other thing, which I know a lot of people are going to have strong opinions on, and they're going to be right. Terrell Bernard was back. Missed several weeks. Now, Shaq Thompson, unfortunately, got a neck injury early in this game. We'll have to see how that plays out. Was it more out of caution that he didn't return, or is that a significant injury? But what I do know is Terrell Bernard came in the game. He did have one nice hit, but that aside, he's not the same player right now that he was 2 years ago or even last year when he got this nice contract. There's a lot of issues, Steve, I guess what I'm saying on this front seven. They gave up another first drive touchdown, which seems to be the weekly norm with this football team. Not good in the first half, and there's a lot of problems with that front seven, just generally speaking. Too many holes out there.
You can't leave Ogunjobi off that list either.
Oh, you mean the guy who didn't play, who was a healthy inactive for this game, $6.5 million guaranteed? Yep. That guy? Yeah.
The two biggest memories I have of Larry Ogunjobi is having the quarterback wrapped up and the quarterback getting away this year. Twice it's happened and turned into a huge play the other way. Not to be the excuse, I see someone in the chat. Imagine this defensive line with Oliver and Hoyt, which is, I'm sure had to be what Brandin Beane envisioned. And 100%. They miss those guys desperately, but there's still enough dudes, or there should be enough dudes on this team to make some plays, like on occasion. Like we talk about Bosa today, tipping the pass up in the air. You talk about Rousseau, 2.5 sacks. Deion Walker had the one kind of pass breakup when he bull rushed up the middle and got his hands up. Mm-hmm. This team, it felt like they were trying to build some kind of like doomsday defensive line that was going to give quarterbacks nightmares. And yeah, they got to Shedeur a couple times, but you would think a game like this against a team this bad with 4 out of 5 offensive linemen hurt, that they would get 8 sacks. Like they let Allen get sacked 9 times by Houston, so it happens all the time. Sure. Myles Garrett's had games where he's gotten fucking 10 sacks himself, for goodness sake. This defensive line can't combine for 3 sacks in a game. Like, it just feels like somebody out there should be making a play. And I also feel like a lot of the sacks have come when they're blitzing from the edge, like Benford coming in to make a sack, or, Milano 2 last week on the blitz. The defensive line in particular has been a huge letdown. And it would be one thing if it's like, well, they're not giving up the run. Like, yeah, they're not getting a ton on the pass rush, but they're really clogging up the run. And they're not doing that either. Like, you're talking about the players that are making the most impact. It's a safety, a linebacker, and a corner, and nobody on that defensive line other than Rousseau today, which I will reiterate. If Rousseau wants to play like this going forward, sign me up. Where do I have to sign? Because that will change the dynamic of this whole game. But I feel like what Beane envisioned is nowhere close to where they are, and that could be in large part with Oliver being hurt and Hoyt playing 6 quarters before he got hurt. But Ogunjobi was in that conversation too. Like, he was the other guy we were waiting to get back from suspension because he was going to be an impact player. They just haven't had enough impact from that defensive line.
Yeah, listen, when it comes to Brandin Beane, you can't envision Ed Oliver getting hurt. It would be unfair to Brandin Beane to put that on him. But what I will say, and Deion Walker is looking like, especially for a 4th rounder, he's looking like a really good defensive tackle. The consistency's not quite there yet, but I think he's ahead of the curve on where most people, maybe even the Bills, expected him to be at this point as a rookie. I think his future is shiny bright. Like, I think he's going to be a stud. But right now, again, he'll make a play here and there, but he's not consistent. But when it comes to this position, Brandin Beane does deserve criticism for 2 things. Number one, I think we can all safely say now the verdict could be out on Larry Ogunjobi. That is just a awful, awful signing. They had a chance to get out because the suspension was found out afterwards. They had a chance to get out of that contract. Brandin Beane decided to do it anyway. So this guy's getting a lot of guaranteed money. He came back. One thing I remember before the season, which unfortunately Michael Hoyt got a freak injury, and nothing you could do about that. But Hoyt and Ogunjobi, the book on them was it could be a benefit them not playing the first 6 weeks. The toll on your body. These guys are going to be fresher later in the season. Well, that hasn't mattered with Larry Ogunjobi, and he played awful last week in Foxborough, and he paid the price. He was a healthy and active. Now, part of the reason is I think they wanted to have TJ Sanders back defensive tackle, play 3-tech. Still, Larry Ogunjobi played plenty of 1-tech before in his career, including with Pittsburgh before this. To be a healthy and active, to me, is an indictment, and it's a bad signing. Now, the book is still out on TJ Sanders. He's a rookie. Some rookies take time. We've learned this with Cole Bishop. Let's not convict TJ Sanders of being a scrub second-round pick this early. But that said, I think it's also fair to say this guy should be better than what he's been. A second-round pick that you traded up to go get, you expect this guy to at least kind of lessen the loss of Ed Oliver, and he hasn't even done anything remotely close to make you say, well, I don't miss Ed Oliver quite as much because TJ Sanders is there, and I feel really good about him. He's had a very bad rookie season. Let's just put it that way, Steve.
Well, when I think of like everybody that used to how polarizing Star Lotulelei was, it was like, man, this guy, he's not making plays, but you could see that he was obviously being double teamed, eating up blockers, kind of like with Rousseau. Man, what's this guy doing? $20 million a year. Well, he's been really good against the run. The analytics are there. He's been really good at setting the edge. It's like there's been a silver lining. What's the silver lining for some of these guys? Like what is at least they blank. It's not there. And these are guys who were brought in to be impact players. Ogunjobi and Sanders, like you said, a move up for a second-round pick. Epineza, also a second-round pick. What is the silver lining for those guys? Like Matt Milano, yeah, he hasn't been great this year, but the impact, big plays, that was kind of how Bernard was for a long time. Like undersized, whatever, but the guy had turnovers and just would make a freaky athletic play, and there was a silver lining to their game. And some of these guys we're 15 games through this year, and they haven't even had a moment. Like Ogunjobi, I feel like hasn't even had a moment where it's like, oh man, look at that great play he made. And that's crazy when you bring in a free agent signing like that, when you draft someone in the second round. There are people all over the league. There are players all over the league. There are players all over this team who weren't second round picks, who are making impactful plays once a week, once a half, once a quarter, where you're calling their name or seeing their name called because they're doing something important to influence the game. And I feel like there's too many passengers right now where you just don't hear their name called in big moments.
Yeah, Paul Walker in the live chat said, Bernard was biting like a bass. Terrible angles, getting washed out, flashing on screen as the runner goes by him. Sickening. And then someone else said, who was it? Schleg said, yeah, Bernard's been a problem all year. Keep him off the field if you can. Well,
how do you do that?
They tried. He didn't start. They were going to play Shaq Thompson a lot. It looked like early in the game, Bernard was going to be a package player. He was playing in certain schemes and certain looks. But then, unfortunately, has been the case with the Bills all year. The injury bug bit hard yet again. And Shaq Thompson went out early and never returned. So back to a full-time, every down role. He went in that football game. Yeah, it was frustrating. Look, this is what I would say about the defense right now, Steve. If they play like this in the wild card round, they're going home.
Yep.
It's just straight up like that. You cannot week after week after week stink on defense in the first half and then expect to be able to just turn on that light switch. Now, in fairness, they've done it plenty. But if you count on that happening and that's how you're going to win in the playoffs, it's not going to work. And they're also being dependent on takeaways, which, again, today, a 3-point victory, they didn't really necessarily earn those interceptions. They weren't great plays, so to speak. They were just right place, right time plays, and they were able to get 2 takeaways, and they didn't turn the ball over. So, obviously, that was an important thing. But if this defense, and I'll tell you what, too, if I'm Sean McDermott, I might consider, if I'm winning the coin toss, taking the ball. Because it almost feels like, why do you want to keep giving up 7-0 leads? It feels like every time, a game starts. Like, I know Sean McDermott's not going to do that. So, like, I'm at a point now, like, when they play Philly next week, I hope Philly wins the toss into first so that Buffalo has to take the football first. Get up and score, and maybe that'll get your defense going. You know, you're up 7-0 right off the bat. Let's flip real quick and talk about that. Here's funny. 40 minutes into a podcast, I don't think I've said the word Josh Allen or James Cook yet today, because I thought it was important to talk about the defense because they were really crummy, but they had some standouts that actually won the game, I feel like, for them. This was an offense that early on was just clicking. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. First 3 drives. But then after that, punt, field goal, downs, punt, downs. Then end of the game. I don't know what to make of this offense. I know this. James Cook's great. 117 yards, but he had 100 in the first half. 2 touchdowns. Dude, he's been awesome. He's leading the NFL as we record this anyway. 1,532 rushing yards, which is the most by a Buffalo Bill since OJ in 1975. 50 years, bro. No one's rushed for this many yards, and he's still got 2 games left on the season. He's 88 yards as we record this in front of Jonathan Taylor right now. I don't know. I guess that's the good of the offense, right? Josh Allen was just so in this game. Maybe that foot injury bothered him in the second half because he didn't look as good in the second half. I don't know. What do you make of this offense? I'm not worried, but obviously the receivers are a big fucking problem, man.
It's interesting, the offense, because if there aren't those big drops, are we questioning it as much? And I'm not saying we're wrong to question it because the drops do exist.
Mm-hmm.
The book is they run the ball very well, which they did, and they continue to do. Ty Johnson was gashing this defense because they were running the ball so well. Ray Davis, I thought, had a really good game. They only handed him the ball a few times, and he was scurrying up the field. It was just a great day for the running backs, and what a stable they have. Well, the receivers aren't very good, but there's a couple, and they're going to keep trying these other guys. But, hey, these tight ends, man, they'll feast, and they'll – the fuck happened today? They were like a non-factor. The biggest things they did was drop the ball. Kincaid makes that incredible play along the sideline, not a catch, which is just – I'm not saying the call was wrong, but what is a catch in the NFL? You see his right toe come down in bounds, but then its foot slides and touches the chalk. I'm not mad that they ruled it not a catch. And then they're talking about limiting. Why was Kincaid dressed today? Why? If they're only going to play him, the number of times that the Bills were in 12 personnel with Knox and Hawes, like, why is Kincaid active? If he's been dealing with this injury all year and he's on a snap count, I think they need him to have all the horses running or he's not going to be effective at all, as was today. The best pass catcher the Bills had today was Jackson Hawes, their 5th-round blocking tight end. That guy made a couple of really good plays, rumbled up the field a few times. I don't know. Like, Allen is superhuman, and the guy is a mutant and can do a million things with the ball. This is 2 weeks in a row where he couldn't have handed the ball to the pass catcher in a better spot, and they're dropping it. And I don't know. I'm befuddled. I don't know what the answer is because we're sitting here saying the offense struggled. Josh only threw for 170 yards. If Knox catches that ball in the back of the end zone, if Cooks catches that ball last week that he bobbles 3 times and goes out of bounds, the Bills probably score a touchdown on that play, and they're not trailing 21-0 to the Patriots. I am so stumped by – I understand the Bills don't have great receiving talent, but when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, Tom Brady made a career of it, they generally are able to elevate their games because of the quarterback. And Allen is not doing something wrong, in my opinion. These guys are just been they're letting him down left and right. And I feel like that the encouraging part is it feels like that can get fixed, Pat. Like these guys could just not fucking drop the ball. And maybe they do score 2 more touchdowns today. And instead of having 23 points, they've got 35 and the game's, a different bit of a script. I don't know, but I'm truly stumped, Pat. I don't know. I don't understand how this quarterback is putting in a bucket for these guys. And someone like Brandin Cooks, who's had a long, established NFL career, and he just can't catch a ball.
Well, you said you're stumped. I'm not really that stumped. You know why? Because it's not a good group. It is a bottom-feeding, wide receiving room in the NFL right now, and they cannot figure it out. They can't figure out who should be playing and who shouldn't. And today was clearly the wrong call. Now, listen, I am a man who is chock full of terrible takes, bad predictions, and probably the best thing that I'll say about myself is that at least I own them. Like, I don't delete tweets. I don't move off takes because they were wrong. I'll eat a bad take. But I'm looking 11:41 a.m. on Sunday morning. Before the inactives were announced minutes before that. So this is before the game. I said, I can't tell you how much I despise Brandin Cooks playing over Gabe Davis. Makes zero sense to me. They're trying to force Cooks into being a good signing. He's not a good player anymore. He can run. All right. What good is running and getting open? And I got not into it with Ryan. Listen, I respect Ryan Tell, but that's my guy. He's an outstanding journalist and podcaster. But, he said he saw on film this guy's getting open. All right, okay. I hope you're right. He is getting open. What does it matter? He can't catch the football. You got to make plays.
And what does it matter if Allen doesn't trust him to catch it? If he's getting open and Allen's like, I'm not fucking throwing it to him, that doesn't help either.
2 straight weeks now. Big, inexcusable drops in this game. I've been waiting for a Josh Palmer breakout game. That's clearly not happening. Buffalo Bills receivers in this game, 6 catches for 57 yards. 4 for 34 was from Shakir. This is like almost every week. Khalil Shakir is getting more than half of the entire wide receiver room production. And again, I said it near the beginning of the show, Steve, they don't have to be elite or even all that proficient at wide receiver because the tight end room, by the way, Jackson Hawes had a nice game today.
He did.
The tight end room is really, really good. Dawson Knox drop notwithstanding today. That was really freaking annoying too. But the tight end group has been great. The running back room has been probably the best in the NFL. I think the Bills have the best running back room in the NFL.
Agreed.
So the receivers don't need to be as good as the Cincinnati Bengals. You know what I mean? But just don't suck. Catch a football when it hits you in your goddamn hands, man.
Mm-hmm.
Make a few plays here and there. Someone in the live chat, Diamond Pickle says, "Are you finally off the Palmer train, Pat?" Yeah, I think I am because he's just not an important part of this offense. And I don't know, unless they're saving him for January or something that I don't know about, but it's just really ugly. And Keon Coleman and Gabe, did you agree? It's easy to be an armchair quarterback now, but when you saw the inactives, they went with Cooks and Hardman as active, which, by the way, I'm like, all right, well, Hardman's at least going to return punts. Did you see in the fourth quarter who fielded a punt? It was Khalil Shakir. When they had to trust somebody to catch a punt, they didn't even use him. So Hardman and Cooks versus, speedy route runners or whatever versus the bigger physical Keon Coleman and Gabe Davis. They went small and speedy. And I saw a lot of people say, well, they're trying to create chemistry or get chemistry going for the playoffs. Bullshit. Play your best players. I don't understand. I can understand Keon Coleman not being out there. No, he hasn't played bad his last couple of games. He's just not getting catches. But I don't get why Gabe Davis has been healthy and active now 2 weeks in a row. That shit better end starting this week. I've seen enough of Brandin Cooks. I don't need to see any more from him at all.
When I saw inactives, my wife was out shopping. I texted her. I said, no Gabe or Keon today, which I thought was interesting, and so did she. And then they only dressed 5 receivers today, which is also odd. It could have been Hardman, Cooks, and Gabe, and then we wouldn't have this conversation. I don't understand how having only 5 receivers dressed works, and then you don't target tight ends either. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand. What was the plan? What was the hope? Because if the plan was to use Hardman's speed, I didn't even see him play on offense, let alone get any targets or whatnot. If the plan is to use Cooks and Palmer's speed when they get open, they only were targeted a handful of times and weren't effective. I don't know. We talked about the comfortability and the speed and the scheme and whatever. Gabe Davis brings a level of that. Josh trusts them. They have a rapport. And whether it's a quick slant on 3rd and 3 or a deep ball or, I just feel like Josh trusts Gabe Davis more, and not having him out there, I don't understand what the thinking is. Like, what's the benefit to that, especially in a week when you only dress 5 wide receivers? I don't know what the answer is. I don't think they need to dress Keon and Gabe and Shavers. I don't think they need all 3 of them dressed, but I think that you need 2 of them. And I think one of them should be Gabe Davis until performance. I don't even know if performance would prove otherwise, because it's not like Keon's out there having world-beating weeks. I think Gabe Davis should play every week.
Yeah. Paul Walker said Hardman is a wasted roster spot. Gabe could block too. I wouldn't be surprised if Hardman's not long for being on this roster. I thought it was telling again late in the game that he's signed to be your returner, Ray Davis is leading the NFL in kick returns, and they've been having Gilliam as that up blocker, which has been working. So I get that. So he's your punt returner. And I'm like, all right, he'll get 5-7 snaps. Well, he didn't have any snaps that I know of in this game. And again, late in the game, he's not even returning punt. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's there. I don't know. I'll tell you this, though, they got to figure it out because you're not going to win 3 playoff games in January getting 5 catches for 50 yards for an entire game from your receiver. You could do it from time to time, but at some point, and it's not even like they're going to ride a guy a whole game, but when the plays are there to be made, you have to make the plays, and they're just not. Last thing about the offensive line, I did want to give some props to. We talk about on the defense how Groot had a great game, and Poyer and Milano and Tre. I'm going to give some flowers to Deion Dawkins. He said after the game he lost 14 pounds. He was sick all week. He lost 14 pounds, and Myles Garrett gave him some props, too, after the game. Deion Dawkins, no, he didn't do it by himself, of course, but Myles Garrett got a half a sack, which
is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that was not a good way. Let me read you a quote right now. This is from Matt Milano, okay? So I got to make sure I give Matt some props. This is what Myles Garrett said today about his matchup with Deion Dawkins. Usually they leave Deion on an island and just let him do his thing. He has a unique set, unique variety, but the guard was coming down quickly. Then they were throwing the bunch on my side tight so that I had to line up inside, and they passed the ball. I really didn't have an angle to get an edge, so they threw a bit of peculiarities at me to try to keep me and kind of contain me where they wanted. They did a good job. So Myles Garrett had some praise for the Bills' game plan in this game, which I thought actually was a good game plan. Again, you said it. Catch the ball, execute, and you got more points on the freaking board. But anyway, I thought the offensive line played pretty well. Cleveland sucks, but that defense doesn't suck. You know what I mean? And Myles Garrett's, he's an animal. So props to the offensive line, specifically Deion.
In the run game, the way that they opened up holes for whoever was back there.
Sure.
Just full props to them for that. And then in the pass game, Allen was the sack that Garrett got was a fluke play. Like Allen kind of slipped, right? He caught the banana peel or something on the 2-yard line. And what a heads up play by him to not take a safety there, to stick the ball out, but to take the NFL's best pass rusher and utterly neutralize him. That credit goes across the board, from the game plan to Josh Allen to the offensive line. You neutralized the one guy that could have wrecked the game. And if Cleveland wins this game, it would have been probably, he certainly would have had a factor, or you would have said coming in, he would have been a reason why. Like, you look at the Houston game when Allen was knocked over every play. That's how you beat the Bills. That's how you can beat Josh Allen. And it certainly was concerning coming into the game that someone like Myles Garrett was going to wreck Allen and wreck the offense and ruin the day. And not only did he not ruin the day, they made him pretty much a non-factor. How the hell he gets half a sack on that, I have no idea. Like, it makes no sense. If it wasn't Myles Garrett going for the record, does the NFL even fucking review it and then come back 20 minutes later and say, after a further review, half a sack is, what are we doing? It's so stupid.
You know what the Bills have been really good at, with the exception of the Houston game where Will Anderson just destroyed them. But aside from that game, the Bills have been great at nullifying great defensive players, especially defensive linemen. Like TJ Watt did nothing for Pittsburgh against the Bills. He had no impact in that game. Myles Garrett today didn't really have any real impact whatsoever in this game. When they beat the Chiefs earlier this year, Chris Jones, who's tormented the Bills in the past, he was a complete non-factor in that game. So I think a low-key thing that, you got to physically make the blocks. That's the most important thing. But, Joe Brady and Aaron Cromer especially, actually, deserve a lot of credit for the way they have built game plans around not letting a stud defensive player completely wreck a game. Like I said, Will Anderson being the one exception for the rule. One last thing about the Bills here, too, from this game. You, me, Paul Walker's 4772, Diving Pickle, 20 other people right now chatting amongst themselves on the video feed. Any of you dudes might be kicking for the Bills next week before Michael Badgley is back for another week. There's going to be tryouts. If you're listening to this Monday, say at lunchtime, you got a late start to the day, you might be missing Bills kicking tryouts right now. Get your ass to the stadium and bring some cleats, because he's going to be doing some kicking. He missed an extra point. He had 2 short kickoffs to start the game. He had one where he didn't even reach the point, so they got the ball at the 40. I think that dude's one and done. Now, I don't think Matt Prater's going to be back this week, so they might need someone for a week or two. But there was one play where the Bills went for it instead of kicking a 51-yard field goal, where it made sense to try to kick the field goal because of whatever the score was. No confidence in him. Yeah, if he's trying to earn a spot on this team for a few weeks, he didn't do that on set. I will be stunned if he's kicking against Philly next week.
Everyone was joking, including me, to have Ray Davis kick the extra point if they needed it. And I wouldn't have been surprised if he did trot out there. Like, it just, you for someone like Badgley, you feel bad for him, but man, this is the only chance you've got. Like, you just got cut, and ironically, what a smoosh by Ian Eagle with he cut after he missed an extra point 2 weeks ago, and he misses the extra point. Like, the ultimate broadcaster smoosh on that one. But yeah, it's not easy to kick in the NFL, man. There's just all the pressure in the world. If you do your job, it's good job. You don't get all the praise, but if you don't do your job, you're on such a short leash. And for him, this was probably his audition for another contract and to keep playing in the NFL. And who knows, get the crystal ball out. Who knows if he's going to kick for anyone going forward. But to screw up, these kickoffs seem easier. Like, the guys, they're purposely trying to leave it short. Like, they basically, it almost looks like they're giving a pooch to it, most of these kickers, because they're able to drive it 80 yards out the back of the end zone, but they no longer want to do that. So they kind of pull out the lob wedge on these kickoffs and just kind of float them in the air and try to get it somewhere between the 20 and the goal line. And for him to get the illegal procedure is just goofy. And, the extra point, he lines up where he wants it on the left hash and then pushes it way right and hits the upright. Yeah, he's probably done.
Let me end with the Bills talk by saying this. As we're recording this. All right, so the Bills are, at the end of the day, they're 11-4, Steve. And how I would have felt had we done this podcast maybe 15 minutes right after the game was over, I think I would have been more fueled with emotion and anger, just because I did not expect to be having borderline panic attacks in a game where once they got up 20-10, I'm like, this is going to be a rout. It ended up being way too close for comfort, a one-score game where Cleveland had an opportunity potentially to win at the end of the game. So if we had done this immediately after, I would have been really, really pissed off. I'm still not in a great mood. I don't feel great about this team or this game specifically, but here's what I will say. I know this sounds corny, and I know this sounds cliche, but it is also not wrong. It is not easy to win in the NFL, and especially on the road. And like I said at the beginning of the show, man, 4 road games in 5 weeks, an emotionally spent big victory last week against New England. They were flat, but they won the game. And when we get up here on Monday morning, they're going to be 11-4, not 10-5. So no panic. Or what I'm asking you is there panic?
No.
For you? Like, how do you feel about this team? They're going into Philly next week. Now, what I will say, unfortunately, we're going to be off the air before the game ends. Right now, it's late in the third. Baltimore's up by New England by 4. The only way the game matters in terms of the actual division. We're not going to talk about wild card scenarios today. It's too early, and there's too many things that can still happen right now. Only divisional purposes here. If Baltimore wins that game, the Bills, essentially, in terms of the division and the division only, it's a meaningless game against Philly next week. It still matters because it could be wild card seeding, or it could be even divisional seeding between a 2 or a 3 seed. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but in terms of the division only, it's meaningless if New England loses to Baltimore in this game. If New England beats Baltimore, then Buffalo needs to beat Philly to have a chance. Anyway, all that said, how are you feeling about this team right now after today going forward?
Here's why I'm not panicking. Right now, the NFC South, the Panthers are leading the division at 8-7. Meanwhile, in the AFC, 6 teams have 10 wins or more, and 1 has clinched a playoff spot. And that tells me that the Bills are doing what they need to do. Like, they're winning. They're 11-4, which is exactly what they would have to do to be in the playoffs. Like, they don't have the privilege of losing a couple of games and still finding themselves in a playoff spot. And they've positioned themselves, even in a tight AFC, in the thick of it. Like, they're not in the hunt at 8-7 or whatever. They are controlling their own destiny. They're 11-4, and they still are in striking distance of the division. they're not the first team in the hunt with a good chance to make the wild card, then I'd be panicking. Like, they could lose next week. They have to be like 99% to make the playoffs right now. And if the Colts lose tomorrow, which might happen, then they are in the playoffs. So that's part of the reason I'm not panicking. The other reason that I'm not panicking is the teams in the AFC, even though some of them have really good records, are not as intimidating as in years past. Like, I was petrified if Cincinnati would have come into Buffalo for the wild card round. They didn't end up making the playoffs, but that scared the shit out of me last year. Of course, the Chiefs were always scary and you didn't want to play them. Earlier this year, it's like, oh man, the Chargers, the Colts, not afraid of either of these teams. Not afraid of the Patriots. They've already beat them. Not afraid of Denver. It feels like they could hold their own with them. Jacksonville. I still feel like I don't trust Jacksonville. I understand that they just went into Denver and romped them today. I don't trust them. So that's why I'm not panicking. They're in position to get in the dance. Once they're in there, maybe this is me being the total fucking homer. They might be the best team in the AFC. Even as the 5 or 6 seed, they might be the best team in the conference come playoff time, and that's why I'm not panicking.
My take with the Buffalo Bills has remained pretty consistent. I think if the front seven defense could play respectable to well, the Buffalo Bills can absolutely beat any team, not just in the AFC, but in the entire NFL. One more real quick break on the video side. We're literally going to be back in about 5 seconds. All right, so we talked plenty about the Buffalo Bills, a 23-20 victory over the Cleveland Browns. They're 11-4. They are an Indy loss on Monday night, away from officially being in the playoffs. Things are looking good on the Bills side. Let me get to a live comment here. Stringfellow Hawk says, not going to lie, I'm here for the Sabres talk. We've been waiting for years for what's happened in the last week. Well, guess what, buddy? You're here for some Sabres talk, and we're going to give you some Sabres talk right now. And that's part of the reason, by the way, why we are doing this show on the video side live so late here on Sunday night, because the Buffalo Sabres, 3 games in 4 nights, all right? And I'm like, the victory on Saturday, Philly, dope, sweet. Hold on. Well, I got the wrong team. Who the hell did
Islanders?
Saturday? The Islanders, duh. What a shootout. That was fun. I was at the bar. My buddy said the Utica clubs are kicking in. I had some Utica club points. By the way, some of the nastiest shit you'll ever drink in your life, man. Utica club draft. It's nasty, but it's like a badge of honor. If I go to Casey's Black Rock, shout out to them. I got to have a couple Utica clubs. Anyway, my point was this. They win on Saturday, another exhausting effort. Then they play their 3rd game in 4 nights. They go to New Jersey, who's a good team, on the road, and the Sabres give up a goal early, and that's all they give up in the entire game. The Buffalo Sabres here on Sunday night beat the New Jersey Devils 3-1. They have a 6-game winning streak now, which, again, they just passed Colorado's got a 5-game winning streak. The Sabres currently have the longest winning streak in the entire NHL. They are 3 points out of the Atlantic Division 3rd place spot right now, and they're 3 points from a wild card spot. Still a way to go. Bunch of teams to climb. But, dude, 35 games in, they're suddenly in a relatively good position. And, oh, yeah, there happened to be a little bit of news last week with the Sabres. Kevin Adams is out, even after they won 3 straight road games. Jarmo Kekalainen is in. He's already making changes behind the scenes. Bro, this just, I don't know if the Sabres got wind on the road that Adams was going to be a goner. I don't know what it is, but this lineup, these players, this roster, the coaching, the enthusiasm, I think Rasmus Dahlin got a Christmas gift. I don't think I've ever seen an NHL player more happy in my life than that first practice after Kevin Adams got fired. I don't like to, kick a guy when he's down. But anyway, this clearly has rejuvenated this team, Steve, and the Buffalo Sabres are they fun again? What are we doing? What's going on here, man? The Buffalo Sabres matter. I love it. I never thought I was going to feel this way again. I'm starting to feel things. What's up?
I'm trying to find the words because, I love this team, man. It's been like a long time coming. So I think instantly the standard changes when you hear Kekalainen talking about compete And as silly as it is, it's like winning matters now. And if we don't win, shit's going to change. And I don't think that's always been the standard. It's what they said the standard was. Now it is the standard. And I know that sounds super cheesy and whatever, but the standard has changed, I think, with the Buffalo Sabres. And for the first time since you have had me on to do a live Sabres postgame, they've won. The last time we were going to do live Sabres, you ended up with COVID and we didn't record. And I said to you, like halfway through the third period, they're playing like shit anyway. What's the difference? Thursday night, I bowl in a league. All my friends are there. We're talking ahead of time. We're so excited for the Sabres game. So they're probably going to lose 5-1. Nope. They're playing intense hockey. The first period against New Jersey looked pretty discouraging today. They were hemmed in their own end. Jack Hughes scores his first game back. Don't forget, New Jersey got 3 significant players back in the lineup tonight. So it felt like that was going to be a shot in the arm.
One scored immediately, too.
Yeah. And then after the first period, the Sabres just put the clamps down and, Benson scores, which he hasn't done too often, a really nice goal. They scored on an empty net, which they never seem to do. They found a way to win. They played a pretty damn good road game today. It wasn't the most exciting, offensive, flashy brand of hockey, but they played a really good road game, which was awesome to see. And Lyon plays outstanding yesterday, and UPL plays incredible today. And sign me up for whatever's going on right now. This is not a fluke that they've won 6 in a row. I don't think that Kekalainen's done, but anybody that's even this much of a Sabres fan, the difference, at least in the energy, is palpable. And it's not just amongst the fans. You can see a difference in the team. And then I think there's a couple of factors. One is the change at the top. 2, Josh Norris is a really good fucking hockey player. And we've talked about him exhaustively, Pat, about how good he is if he's on the ice. And that's the biggest if of this podcast, if he's on the ice of this episode today. But man, is he making a difference. Tage Thompson had goals in 6 straight games. Dahlin looks utterly rejuvenated. That coast-to-coast goal yesterday was nuts. I don't know. They bring back Oslin and Roseanne, which is super wise. If anybody noticed, Roseanne played tonight over Greenway as a maintenance day for Greenway. Nope. They are playing a young offensive stud, or okay, not stud, but up-and-comer over Jordan Greenway right now, which I like Greenway, but man, Lindy seemed, I'm talking a lot now, Lindy seemed angry when Oslin got sent down. Like the only bad thing here is that he got sent down. And I think that created part of the rift that led to this change. Oslin is not going to play in Rochester anymore, in my opinion. He's done playing minor league hockey.
I agree.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about.
I'm glad you brought up the Oslin going down because I was going to ask you this. You kind of already answered it, but I want to be clear on this. Do you think that was the ultimate? I don't know that it's one specific thing per se, but it feels like that was the tipping point. Like that was the final straw, maybe. Lindy Ruff was about as outwardly annoyed as it gets. And he said about as much as he could say without directly calling out Kevin Adams by name. Do you know what I mean? Like it was an indirect call out. I don't know if that was the final straw or not, but it kind of felt that way to me. Did it to you as well?
Let's be real. If that was the final straw, that's wild because there's been, a 5-year track record of things happening.
Sure.
But that probably led to some conversations that weren't had before, which if Lindy was having them, good for him. I have no clue, but that's awesome that would be, hey, I really don't think this has given us the best chance to win kind of thing. Seeing eking into the playoffs, Paul Walker just posted, I saw the graphic this afternoon of percentages to get in. The Sabres were at like 22 or 23%. Yeah. And that sounds silly, but most times by this time of year, it's 1%. So, the East is a logjam. They might have to get in by winning a division spot. The wild card teams might all be from the Metro, but just keep stacking wins, keep stacking points. That's all that you can control. And they're above 500. They're beating good teams and they're playing good hockey. They are playing responsible hockey. I don't know. I am hoping that this is what we see for the rest of the year, because even if somehow they don't make it, it's kind of going to be a war of attrition, not because they didn't deserve to get in. This team has deserved to win these 6 games, Pat. Like they as much as it was disappointing last night for the Islanders when they give up that tying goal with 20 seconds to go, the way they're playing, they deserve to win these games. Like the Minnesota game, you remember when the goal went in off of Josh Stone's shot and like Zuccarello batted it into the net, like that kind of fluky stuff. It's like, well, they won, but did they really deserve it? Man, they've played good hockey for the last 6 games, and I just hope this gives them the confidence going forward to keep doing this, because this is what we've been dreaming of, Pat. Just turning on a Sabres game and enjoying what we're watching.
The timing with the general manager change and Yarrow coming in, your thought on that? And it felt to me, one of my big takeaways from his presser was, I think Lindy Ruff may be on borrowed time, but the way this team's playing, I don't know that I believe that anymore. I think my first initial thought was wrong. And I also think there may be a factor that Terry Bagula has said openly before, that one of his great regrets was firing Lindy Ruff the first time. Do you fire a guy in January or February when his contract could just run out after the season? Like, is it going to make that much of a difference? What do you feel about the Lindy Ruff situation and standing with this team, and just the overall thoughts about the timing and the general manager change right now?
I think part of the other contributing factors was the game that Terry was in attendance for, and the fans were just rabid, right? Just lambasting the chants about Adams and whatever. I didn't even hear it. I don't know what I had. I might have been, at bowling that night, so we didn't have audio when it was happening or something. But there, something got to him for sure to make the change in the middle of the season like he did. So that's part of it. And as far as the coaching staff, I know when Yarmo says everything's on the table, I believe him, because look at the changes that have already happened. It feels like Lindy was going to stick around anyway because of how much Pagula respects him, but I think Yarmo might too. They're kind of cut from the same cloth, like Yarmo and Lindy. I wouldn't have been surprised with some assistant changes, because don't forget, Lindy didn't get to pick his assistants from the time he came in. It doesn't seem like he's had control over who his assistants were or are. That might change. I don't know. But if they're going to keep winning, I don't know how, what more. There could be a really short leash for some of these things right now for a change to be made. But until this winning hockey stops, the stuff that he's doing behind the scenes is not going to directly impact the way they're playing right now. And the way they're playing right now is pretty good.
Going to have Chris Ostrander on the show tomorrow, by the way. And part of the show will be, I'm going to, like I always do on Monday morning, I'm going to get a really early Monday. I'm going to watch back the all 22 from the Bills game and kind of form more takeaways based on actually watching it back and seeing the film. And I'm sure Chris will have plenty to say about the Sabres as well. I want to ask you this now. I hate to bring up a bad, touchy subject because the Sabres are playing well, and it's just fun. It's just fun to watch this team play well. It's fun to see them, even if they're not relevant around the league quite yet, they're relevant here, where you could just tell that 6 wins is starting to get more people invested again, and that is great. It's just fun, dude. But the Alex Tuch situation, I don't know how you handle that. I don't know that the Sabres can or should pay him what it feels like they would have to keep him. Then it's like, well, you got to trade him or you're not going to get nothing. It's a delicate situation. And what would really stink is if, let's say we get near the trade deadline, okay? And the Sabres are, let's just say they're right where they're at right now. They're either in a playoff spot or say they're within 3 points or so. They're right there. And you end up having to trade a great asset now in Alex Tuch because you couldn't get a deal done. That would suck. But I don't know that I want to sign him if it's going to be a 7 or 8 year deal for northward of $10 million a year. It's a very tricky situation, isn't it?
I think the biggest thing that Yarmo has, though, is time, because the trade deadline's like March 8th. So I love how late it is, because that gives them, listen, whatever the playoff picture looks like now, in 3 months is going to be drastically different. Whether the Sabres have tumbled back to last place or a couple other teams have fallen off, there's no way the whole conference keeps playing at this clip. Every team in the conference over 500. Like, of course, the year the Sabres are starting to figure it out, every other team in the conference has to be playing 500 or better hockey to make it harder on them to find a way in. But you'll have a much clearer picture as the deadline rolls around, that I don't think it'll be as hard of a decision to make. Just as you were talking, Pat, in my head, I'm like, what is more important to this team? Keeping Alex Tuck or making a legitimate playoff run? And I think it's making a legitimate playoff run, but those things aren't mutually exclusive. Part of making a legitimate playoff run could involve keeping Alex Tuck. But the decision is a heck of a lot easier if and I hope this doesn't happen, the Sabres find themselves in last place on March 7th. When they're not making a run anyway, it's easier to get what you can for him. You would get some good value. He goes to join a team that's making a playoff run, and then you hopefully stock the shelves for your run next year. If they are playing well, I think it's easier to sign them. If they're finding, if it's March 7th and they're third in the division and they control their own destiny and make the playoffs, and you're Yarmo and you say, you know what, I don't know what the number is, but you're really been an integral part of us making this playoff run. It's easier to pay him $10 million because he's been part of the solution to end the playoff drought. So I think the advantage of what Yarmo has in front of him right now is time. He doesn't have to do this right now. We wanted it done in the offseason. It would have been nice if it was done in the offseason, but the trade deadline being so late gives the Sabres a lot more ability to make an educated decision and make the right decision on what to do with them going forward.
The last thing I want to say about Yarmo, too, as well, that I really like potentially, at least anyway, if this team's playing well, and I'm hesitant, but look, 6 wins in a row is 6 wins, man. It's not nothing. That's pretty significant to me. But what I wanted to say was, if this team plays well over a sustained period of time over these next couple months, and now it's Yarmo Kekalainen, a guy who I think, unlike Kevin Adams, has respect around the league. It's not that people didn't. Well, I don't think they respected Kevin Adams enough because he didn't really have the experience. He didn't have the connections in terms of the hockey front office aspect of it. Yarmo certainly does. I guess what I'm saying to you is this. There's players right now that a week ago or even today maybe would never in a million years waive a no trade to come to Buffalo. Like if Buffalo's trying to be a buyer at the trade deadline and they're going on trying to make a splash, hypothetically, guys ain't going to want to come here if they got no trade protection, which in hockey almost everybody seems to a certain extent, right? But now that you got new management and a guy who's respected, and if this team's playing well, I think you could get players to buy into that, hey, Buffalo, and I know Buffalo has a great reputation as a hockey city, like the fans, and I think people around the league know that too. They talk about it all the time. Yarmo being GM, Steve, can that help guys who right now have NTCs to say, I ain't coming to Buffalo in a million years, change their mind?
It could play a role. Look at what happened with Mark Bergevin. He gets him to leave Los Angeles. There's palm trees in California. Gets him to leave Los Angeles to come to Buffalo. Like that's a name. That's another name and that's respected in the NHL in Mark Bergevin. And it's not like Mark Bergevin was sitting on his couch looking for a job. He was working for another organization and he agreed to come to Buffalo. The other thing is that Yarmo said right from the jump is you got to win. And if you're winning, that's the number one thing to attract free agents and trade partners and whatnot. So once again, come deadline day, if the Sabres are in a playoff spot, which it all goes hand in hand. Yarmo setting the standard of competing every night, and he says on games that we're losing where guys aren't competing, that's unacceptable. And the importance of winning, which once again, every team, every organization, every general manager says you got to win. Yarmo says it differently. Like he says it like your dad. You better compete, and winning is important. And if that message is getting across loud and clear, and they start building something here, they could be buyers at the trade deadline. And if all of these things start aligning, yes, Buffalo is a destination where people will want to come play. So it all goes hand in hand. What Yarmo is saying and what he's doing and what he will say and do, give it a couple of months and see where everything stands. But it looks a lot better now than it did a month ago. That's for sure.
Let's get to a couple fan comments here from people in the peanut gallery here on the live video side before we call it a day real quick. Diamond Pickle said that Christmas tree snack is looking low. All right, so if you're watching on the video side, I had 21 boxes of Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes. I'm down to 5. And I'm going to be honest with you, Steve. There were some that I had early in the process that I'd never even got to put up there, probably another 4 or 5. I probably had about 25 to 28 boxes of Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes, and I did not have one until the day after Thanksgiving. That's when it became Christmas season for me. I've been eating roughly about almost a box a day. Sometimes even once or twice I've had more than a box. I can't remember what game it was. Maybe the Chiefs. I don't remember. But there was one Bills game where Joan from Queens and I did a live show. I literally ate an entire box on the air during the show. But anyway, yeah, it's my thing. And I'm getting fatter and fatter every day. I love it. Ariello Grande said, how about Deion Dawkins' job after the flu? We talked about that earlier in the show. Yeah, good point. Like I said, 14 pounds, he says he lost. He came out, he played well. Paul Walker.
Pat found those 14 pounds, eating all those Christmas trees.
I definitely found those
Dawkins
14
lost
pounds,
them, but Pat
man.
found them.
I'll tell you what, though. You know what? The diet that starts on January 2nd is going to be elite. It's going to be an elite diet. I'm going to have tons of content. I'm going to have some fun with it. So I think I'm kind of getting fat on purpose so that the diet could be extra special. Paul Walker said, did Milano break that dude's leg or what? They wouldn't show it on TV. Yes, I think he already broke his fibula and he dislocated his ankle is the initial report. You said it, and I agree. It sucks. I don't want to see that happen to anybody. For the purpose of this game, though, that helped the Bills because Judkins was a problem for them for sure in this football game, man. He was giving them fits. I'm looking at his stats here before he got hurt. So he only had 8 carries for 22 yards, but he had 5 catches for 29 yards as well. Tough physical runner, man. So anyway, yes, unfortunately he did break his leg and he also hurt his ankle in this game. Schleg said, where's the angry drunk guy who's always complaining? Joe from Queens. Well, angry drunk guy is with his family and Spicy Steve is in the house today. I tell you, I like those Bills takes, man. I like the fact that you came out firing with this show. Ryan Anderson, I already talked about this. Shout out my guy, Ryan Anderson. It was the Utica Club kick. He was with me last night at Casey's Black Rock. Schleg said, got to keep Cooks. Talking about Brandin Cooks, just because he's the only one that can get open in this offense. Steve, what does it matter if you can't catch the football, man? 2 games in a row, right? You said it. You said it perfect earlier. How does Josh Allen trust him? You know?
Yep.
I don't know.
Couldn't hand it to him better.
Yeah. Stephen Noble, pay Tuck $10 to $12 million for 4 years. Anything longer than that is a Knox anchor contract. He's by far our best 2-way player. All that may be right. The money may be right, but let me ask you this. If you're Alex Tuck, this is going to be your payday. Why would he take only 4 years? You don't think he would do that, do you? If the Sabres said, I'll overpay you, I'll give you 12 a year, but I'm only paying you for 4 years. He's not taking that, is he?
I don't think so. I mean,
No.
especially because wasn't it leaked that what part of what Tuck wanted was more term or something? They couldn't come. The money was agreed upon, but the term wasn't. I don't know if that's true, but
yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, all right. That's it for the question. We're going to get out of here in a second, but real quick, what's up with the Bandits, man? If people don't know this, Steve is an announcer with the Bandits. He showed off the rings here at the beginning of the show. It's early, obviously, in the season, but since we're in on the Bills, we're in on the Sabres. How are the Bandits looking?
1-1 to start the year. Both home games, they won their opener fairly convincingly, and then their second game, they kind of ran into a hot goalie. The goalie that they played against only gave up 2 goals the game before, which ties the record. Lacrosse is such a high-scoring game. Came into Buffalo, and they peppered them early. They scored a bunch early and then slowed down and ended up losing in overtime. So they, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. They've played well. They still have most of the band back together. They lost 2 fairly key offensive players to Las Vegas in free agency with the new collective bargaining agreement. So they retooled the offense a little bit with some free agents that they brought in, some guys that they brought in that weren't with the organization before. But nothing to worry about. They play Calgary on Sunday, and then they're back home on January 3rd. So that's where they're at.
Paul Walker, 4772, says, I feel bad for the Browns. Why do you feel bad for the Browns? I feel bad for the Browns fans. That kind of reminds me of the Sabre fans a little bit. But it's tough to talk shit about Sabres fans when you win 6 in a row right now like they have. They got a good defense, Cleveland. But last question, then I'll let you go. Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he's just such a polarizing fella, man. People talk about him, good or bad. There's no indifferent with him on social media, of course. What's your takeaway from watching him. If this was Talking Cleveland and we were going over this game and what little you've seen from him besides this, what would be your opinion right now on Shedeur Sanders as a Browns fan on what you would want to see with him going forward? If you want to see him going forward, I don't know, what would your thought be?
I think he's going to end up just another notch in the belt of Cleveland quarterbacks. You know, they've had a million of them. He certainly doesn't seem like he's one of Stefanski's guys. Stefanski doesn't want to play him now, it seems like. He was probably excited that Dylan Gabriel was in the game. At least that's what it felt like. I'm not even here to hate on the guy. Like, I'm not a big college football fan, so I didn't know much about him coming in. I just think he's not going to be impactful enough to be a dude for them, to like be a franchise quarterback. And if they move on from Stefanski, I can only imagine that new coach would kind of have his desires to have his own guy. And I personally think the Browns are fucked forever because of that Deshaun Watson contract and trade. So they set themselves way back, and they're kind of getting what they deserve as an organization. But as you said, I feel bad for the fans because they deserve better.
I agree about the fan part for sure. I think Cleveland, Detroit, those fans, I really can. I think Buffalo fans could totally relate to them. I'm not very high on Shedeur Sanders. I don't see him throwing the ball down the field much at all. I think he's a little slow with his release. I think his processing is a little bit slow. He did impress me with a couple runs today. Like, he did escape sacks a few times for the Bills, but, you know, some of that's credit to him, and then some of that's just like the Bills just suck at tackling and getting the quarterback down, which, by the way, I avoided talking about that today. Maybe I'll talk about it more tomorrow. The tackling on this team is just absolutely, for the most part, is pretty pathetic, man.
What tackling?
Exactly. A very pathetic tackling team. Listen, I was going to try to bullshit our way through being able to stay on through the end of the New England-Baltimore game, but that's not going to happen because there's still 5 full minutes left in the fourth quarter. Baltimore is up by a field goal, and they do have the football. For people who've made it all the way to the end, just so you know, if you wake up in Baltimore beating New England, that means that the Bills could lose, like I said, to Philly for the purpose of the division. It wouldn't hurt their chances of winning the division. Ultimately, New England, even if they lose this game, they'd still have to lose either on the road against the Jets or at home against Miami. Not very likely. And if New England wins because Pittsburgh beat Cleveland today, Pittsburgh could go to Cleveland because Pittsburgh beat Detroit. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh could go to Cleveland next week. They could win the AFC North. Baltimore and Pittsburgh play each other week 18. But if Baltimore happens to lose this game Sunday night and then Pittsburgh goes to Cleveland and wins, it's over. So Baltimore will be out of the playoffs if that happens. People want to avoid that. I'll say this, though. Got to worry about the Chargers. Got to worry about getting the 5. Right now, the Bills aren't at 5. They're at
with
6.
11 wins. That's wild.
It is. It is wild. 11 wins, and they could end up, say if they go 1-1, they could go 12-5, and they're going to 12-5 could only be good for the 6th seed at the end of the day. That's crazy. Actually, I take that back, because if Houston wins out and they don't win the division, they could be 12-5, and the Bills could be the 7th seed in all this. It's craziness. It's just wild. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, make sure you follow Steve on social at Steve Bermel. Fun as always, man. I appreciate you stepping in, stepping up. I love the fact that I was excited to have you on, especially, like I said, not just for the Bills, but to be able to talk about a hot Sabres team right now. Woo. Really, really cool stuff. Appreciate you showing off the baddest championship rings, too, for the people on the video side as well. Appreciate you, dude, as always.
Man, thanks for having me. Great day. Bills win, Sabres win. Let's go.
Yeah, and thank you very much to well over 1,100 people who've stopped through here on the live video side. Like I said, Chris Ostrander from Two in the Box will join me on the show tomorrow.